Welcome, everybody, to our premiere episode of our Depth Chart Show. I guess we're going to just call it Depth Chart Show. Maybe we'll change the name at some point, but right now, we're just trying to figure this show out. I am Ryan McKee. You can follow me at the Ryan McKee on Twitter. I am joined today by Cory Henke from Ourlads and Tucker, the Duke of Depth Charts. Moss, this is your show, Tucker. How's it going, guys?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
All right. Love that energy coming from Tucker.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, even though you didn't ask me specifically. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
I can't match your energy, Ryan.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm the host. I'm supposed to bring energy. This is the Depth Chart Show where we are going to talk about changes in depth charts. Today we have 4 topics we're going to hit. We're going to hit our first segment is going to be rookies who are already starters on the depth charts. We're going to do the next segment, predicting depth chart movement. Maybe there's a rookie behind a journeyman veteran that we think could beat in camp for the starting role, something like that. We'll talk about that. Our third segment is going to be notable veterans moving teams like Odell Beckham Jr., Gabe Davis, Calvin Ridley, etc. And our final segment will be roster holes. Which teams have gaping holes they still need to fill? And Tucker is here to answer all these questions. And Cory and I will be peppering him with questions. See how he holds up under that pressure. How you feeling, Tucker?
I'm very confident.
Are you ready? You're confident?
I'm just excited to hear. I'm excited to hear your guys' well-researched questions.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm representing the common man here. By the way, I'm
okay.
Representing the common man, trying to get education from the Duke, one and only, so I can win in my fantasy come this fall.
All right. And on that note, everybody should be following Ourlads on social media at Ourlads Football. And then you can check out all of our depth charts that we'll be talking about at ourlads.com. We have the most updated depth charts of anybody. Would you say that that's true, Tucker? We are the most current up-to-date depth charts?
That's what we try to be. Yeah.
All right. Love that confidence. Here we go. All right. I am going to ask you, I'm going to pull up a depth chart here. We're going to start talking about the Cardinals first because we got to talk about my man, Marvin Harrison Jr. sliding right in to the starting role. There we go. I've got the depth chart up. I can even make that a little bigger. How's that look on the screen? Yeah. All right. Marvin Harrison Jr. in the wide receiver 1 spot. Tell me what are you thinking with the Cardinals here? What can we expect from Marvin Harrison Jr. in his first year?
He's going to get a lot of targets. He's clearly number 1. I mean, he's kind of been talked about a lot, but it warrants it for sure. It was a desperate need for them. Like, so many people were trying to think they would go like trade down or something like that, like they like to do, like they did last year, to accrue more picks. But they just went with the top guy, the top non-quarterback on their board, and I think it was a good decision because it's like he immediately jumps in as like a star, hopefully. And I also like their other star. Like, I like Michael Wilson. I think he can take a big step up year 2. And Greg Dortch is often underrated player. Good in the
that
slot.
Is my dad's favorite player is Greg Dortch. That's such like a dad favorite player to have. He just likes the hustle on that guy. Yeah. You know?
No, I love Greg Dortch.
He's always talking about Greg Dortch.
Like last year, there was another slot they had last year that like he kind of switched out with all the time.
Oh, Rondale Moore?
Yeah, Rondale, yeah. So like
they traded him to Atlanta for Desmond Ridder, yeah.
Yeah. So once Rondale was gone, it was a clear then like, oh, Dortch is the starting slot, Michael Wilson another starter, and then whoever they draft is top, and that made it really clear. The main thing is their depth isn't super strong.
I was gonna say that it looks very shallow on the wide receiver side. I'm a Cardinals fan, and I don't recognize most of those names.
Like Pascal has been there. He was there last year. Where he kind of was the number 4 last year as well, number 4 or 5, along with Dorsch. And besides that, they brought in Chris Moore, who's another kind of just end of wide receiver room guy. So I think that he'll probably make the roster, but I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in another veteran to compete there. They drafted Tawan Palmer, obviously, but I don't know if he's someone who will make the team or if he'll be a practice squad guy.
Yeah, they drafted him in the 6th round. I don't know anything about him. Where's he from even?
I think UAB, Alabama Birmingham.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's kind of a versatile option, but I kind of saw him as being a slot guy. Actually, all those second string guys are pretty versatile. They can kind of play slot or outside.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go. You can continue. Finish your thought.
I was just gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if they added any other veterans who aren't signed yet, like similar like the Dolphins getting Odell last week.
Yeah, who's out there and available that the Dolphins that the Cardinals might be able to sign?
There's I guess Boyd just signed, but there's Marquez Valdez-Scantling if they wanted to get a huge guy out there. Michael Thomas, Russell Gage. I know Zay Jones was visiting with the Chiefs today. I know Zay Jones is a guy who's kind of going around right now that might get signed because he was just cut by the Jaguars after signing Brian Thomas. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But as it stands, there is kind of a clear top 5 or 6 that they would probably keep for their active roster. It's not one of those that's really there's some other teams that's very everyone in their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th string, they're kind of competing for the wide receiver 4, 5, 6. But here it's more clearly defined unless they add some more veterans.
Yeah, while we're talking about the Arizona offense right now, tell me your thoughts on Trey Benson. We talked a little bit about this on the fantasy show. How much work do you see him getting behind James Conner?
Yeah, that's the question because, last year Conner got a lot of work. I think ideally most teams kind of prefer to spread out the touches, and Benson will really work well as a 3rd down as a receiver. But that being said, I think after next year, Benson could easily just slide into the starting role then if Conner moves on in free agency. I think it's his last year on his contract.
Yeah. Wanted to talk briefly about the defense too, since we have some rookie starters here. Darius Robinson, the defensive end, and Max Melton, the cornerback. Which one do you want to start with?
Darius Robinson is interesting. I really like that they got him because he's a versatile player, so he can play defensive tackle or he can play as an outside linebacker. So you could really slot him.
Yeah, he's a big boy, right? What is it, 285?
Yeah, 286.
Yeah.
And
286.
Yeah.
The Duke of Depth Charts has corrected me on being 1 pound off.
Yeah, way off.
That's water weight. It's fine. But I could have slotted him in an outside linebacker spot. We just don't really know yet. To me, that was the clear kind of spot he could fill is that defensive end, play 5 tech or something like that. With before it was had Tonga there at nose tackle starting, but I think having Darius Robinson, Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones as your starters, if you're playing a 3-4, if you're playing with 3 down linemen, then that would be ideal with then Zaven Collins and BJ Ojolari on the edge. And then obviously there's they have a deep edge rusher room with Dennis Gardeck and Victor Dimukeje and Jesse Luketa, but they kind of need a top end guy. And Darius Robinson, I'm sure they'll move all over the place.
Right. He was one of our top end edge rushers in the draft guide. I'm not as familiar with Max Melton because we didn't really talk, and they took him in the 2nd round, but we didn't talk a lot about him in the draft guide and the pre-draft shows for cornerbacks. So tell me more about Max Melton. Some people saw him more. He's from out of Rutgers, I believe. Some people saw him more as a slot cornerback, but I think, he offers versatility. A lot of these guys do these days. Yeah, he's out of Rutgers.
Not many are pure slots or pure outsides, but Melton, I did like I mean, they really needed a cornerback because before it was just Starling Thomas who was starting, who did start a little bit from last year, but it was like a clear, they needed some more depth there. That's why they spent, you can see that second row has 3 more draft picks that were spent with Dadrian Taylor Demerson, Elijah Jones, and Jaden Davis. And
yeah, they just really like went all in on defensive back.
Yeah. And Melton, I think they'll keep Garrett Williams in the slot. That's where he played last year mainly, and they'll just put Melton outside. That's possible they switch those guys around though. Other than that, though, I like that they got another one in Elijah Jones in the third as well, as another like outside cornerback. And then Sean Murphy Bunting will be that top guy for this year at least.
Cory, you have any questions on the Cardinals?
I was just curious what you guys thought about, not to take it off the depth charts necessarily, but in fantasy with Kyler Murray kind of coming into kind of a boomer bust year for him. If you guys are liking Harrison early on as a wide receiver in the fantasy.
I mean,
I really go ahead, Tucker.
I do like him a lot. It's just a question of like, he's going to be it could get to the point where his value's like overinflated due to how, similar like Bijan last year. So like when it's someone like this highly touted, it's possible sometimes they go even too high where it's like you're taking him above. It's super, it's like, should you really take him above Jamar Chase or something? I don't know. It's like
no, I mean definitely not. But I don't know, where is he going in fantasy drafts right now?
I know it's pretty high. I don't really know the guys that are in his tier though.
I'll look up fantasy ADP, but but where I thought you were going with the question, Cory, is what are we thinking of Kyler Murray? And I think he's undervalued. I think he's going to have a true number one wide receiver. And we saw how good his numbers were when he had DeAndre Hopkins there as his true number one. They were a lot better. He fell off after that. He came back, after his injury last season, played pretty well overall for a bad Cardinals team, which is why they got the 4th pick, because they actually won some games, and so I do like Kyler as a sneaky pick at your quarterback position in fantasy right now.
How much movement did they have on the offensive line this offseason?
The left tackle spot, like their DJ Humphries is out of the picture now. They're like long time starting left tackle. So they brought in Jonah Williams, who's I think it was a 1-year contract. But I mean, currently how I look at it is like they brought back Calvin Beachum, who's a really good swing tackle. So he could fill in if there's ever like an injury or anything like that. But the left guard spot is the main one I'm kind of looking at, where that could be, it could easily be Evan Brown or Tristan Colon or the rookie Isaiah Adams who wins that job for left guards. I'm just going with Wilkinson, who played the starter last year, most of the year. But that's kind of something we have to see. Same with right guard too, with Will Hernandez.
Yeah. I mean, and to answer your health is everything to the success there. I'm not sure how many games he's played in each season, but it just feels like he's on and off the injury list all the time.
Yeah, no, he is. He gets banged up. He's a little guy. That's why they went out and got Desmond Ridder. I don't know if that's that great, but obviously they don't trust Clayton Tune behind him as the only backup. Just to answer your previous question, average draft position for Marvin Harrison Jr. is 23, which I feel like is very high. That's above, the Michael Pittman Jr., above Drake London, above Deebo Samuel, above DJ Moore. He's got him at wide receiver 11. That's on Fantasy Pros.
Yeah, I figured it'd be I think that's
high.
kind of
that feels like too high for a rookie.
I think it might actually be about where I'd say. I think that he'll get a lot of targets. It's one of those. It's like when like the Cowboys drafted Zeke, and Zeke was going like very top fantasy drafts, and and he completely was worth it too because he got like 400 touches or something. But sometimes they go in and they're just going to get fed like crazy. So we'll hear some more about it getting closer and closer, like how he's looking in camp and stuff like that, which I don't really, I don't think that really matters that much for this situation. But Yeah, I think
All right,
that's probably a fair spot to go.
Yeah, we've spent quite a bit of time on the Cardinals. Which team do you want to go to next, as far as rookies who are slotted in as starters?
We could go with the Ravens.
Ravens. Okay, I did not expect you to say Ravens.
Yeah, I was going to say, gosh, that's a surprising one to me, Tucker. I just feel like the Ravens did a lot of good things this offseason, including drafting, it seemed like this year.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
So they kind of they did. I like their draft a lot. They took a lot of like TJ Tampa was a really good value that we had rated pretty high, and they took him in the 4th. We had him as like a first or more like a second round pick. But he's
They've
gonna
got
be
him
good.
slotted in as
Iowa
a backup right now.
Yeah, and they also got Nate Wiggins as their first round, the cornerback. Which so they could end up. I have it right now. These are more of not clear starters. I'd say that the right tackle is. I think that he'll start, but Wiggins is more of a toss-up. If they end up, what I did was Marlon Humphrey is like their top cornerback, and here I'm moving him to the slot because he can play either place. And so I'm kind of just going with the philosophy of having your best 3 corners out there. So instead of having, like last year, it was Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens on the outside, and then Arthur Mollett would be nickel. But Mollett was kind of just a fill-in guy. They ended up moving Kyle Hamilton to be more of a slot, and Ardarius Washington too. But if Wiggins, the only thing with Wiggins is that he's 20 years old, so it's possible he's not like fully ready to be the starter from day one. And in that case, he'll just probably sit behind Brandon Stevens, and then they'll kind of slide everyone down like I have it there. But I think that he can win the job, though. And him with Brandon Stevens and Marlon Humphrey is a really potent cornerback room, along with TJ Tampa there, too.
Love it. What, do you got any questions for the Tuck man, Corey?
I like it. Let's keep moving.
All right, let's move. What is the next team we should be looking at?
I want to talk about really quick the offensive line for them, because
sure,
that was the other spot.
That's what everybody's so excited to talk about, is the offensive line.
The big uglies. Let's hear it.
Yeah. They kind of have they had a big hole at their left guard spot and then right tackle, because they lost Zeitler at guard, went to the Lions, and at right tackle I liked they were gonna have Daniel Faalele and Patrick McCarry compete there, but it made a lot more sense to bring in a rookie, and I think that he'll start. I think he'll beat Faalele for the right tackle spot, because they prefer to keep McCarry as like a he plays like all 5 spots, so they like to have him as like a 6th O lineman, and and then left guard is interesting because you'll see Andrew Voorhees is slotted there, who was a 7th round pick last year, and if you don't know about him, he didn't play at all last year. Like, he was on IR. But that's the reason he was drafted 7th round, is because he tore his ACL during the combine. So he's someone I know they like love. And by all accounts that I've seen, is that he should be like healthy at this point. And I think that he can win the left guard spot.
Just like, I mean, that's the perfect name. Just like Jason Voorhees coming back from the dead.
Exactly.
See what I did there? Huh?
Who's Jason? Who is that? I don't even know.
Jason Voorhees. Jason, you know, the guy with the hockey mask. The Predator 13th movies.
Yeah, all right.
Come on, get with it, guys.
That reference was for you, Corey.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that was like right in your wheelhouse, Corey. You didn't get it.
Oh no, right over our head.
All right, let's talk one more team before we're moving on to the next segment. What is another rookie starter you want to talk about?
I mean, like, there's like the Bears is just like kind of talked about a lot with Caleb Williams and Robo Dunze.
Yeah, let's talk Bears real fast. We'll just
okay.
We know Caleb's going to be the starter there. How's the rest of the team look? How are we feeling about Caleb's first year?
Well, yeah, he's got a great supporting cast. It's one of the best receiving corps for sure. Odunze will definitely start. as like alongside DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. It's just a question of like how the target share will be. So it's kind of trickier for fantasy, at least this first year. But Caleb Williams, though, yeah, I mean, it's going to be good. I'm excited to see how the run game is too, because they got Swift. It was kind of like disappointing a little bit last year, but I like Khalil Herbert and Rashawn Johnson. Like that's a pretty nice trio. But yeah, I wouldn't. The two really undebated starters are Dunze and Caleb Williams that are going to come in. And let's not forget about the most important position in football, which is the punter. And them spending a fourth round pick on
let me
on my
scroll
guy.
down to the punter section.
Those of you
Special
playing
teams,
with
here we go.
those of you in those fantasy leagues with punters.
Tory Taylor.
Some of us grow up to want to be punters, by the way. But continue on.
Cory was a punter in college, for those who don't know.
Yeah, no one knows. It's okay.
All right. For everybody who doesn't know, Cory was a punter at a very prestigious school that do you want to name?
Oh, yes. Well, it's the Harvard of the Midwest, University of Northern Iowa. I just want to get
there you go. Known for their punters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Tory Taylor was fourth round pick for a punter.
Yeah, I personally think it's worth it to get someone who you think is going to be an amazing punter. Like I think it's valuable at that point. Day 3 pick, it's pricey, but it's not unheard of for like at all. I wouldn't do it in the first round like some other teams have done in the past, but yeah, he's going to be a stud. So just like out of the gate, he was Iowa's offense basically. So
yeah. Yeah, go for it, Cory.
I got one other team I want to talk about when you get off this one.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I'm not much of a Bears fan. Sorry for y'all, much more of the Vikings. But the Oracle, Dan Shanka, has Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. And I have to tell you, I think he is set up for a lot of success with supporting cast, new head coach, the OC, and a gentleman sitting behind him. I'm curious to have Tucker kind of dissect this depth chart.
For Washington?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got them up on the board there, buddy.
That's an exciting one. I mean, yeah. So they brought in.
You say it with so much excitement too.
Yeah.
When you say that's an exciting one.
Well,
whoa, Tucker is blowing up.
It could really go. It could go any way, but I agree with in our show about fantasy, David Syverton, what he was saying is that they're going to let him air it out, and I think that will be exciting. So Terry McLaurin and Jan Dotson are both good receivers. I love Terry. And
I like that they got Luke McCaffrey too. I think that's a really interesting third receiver for them.
Yeah, I think that he'll win the third spot out the gate, but there is some question just because he was a quarterback 2 years ago. So he's kind of still new at playing receiver, but I think that he has the biggest upside behind those top two guys.
Sounds like a Julian Edelman type, huh?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I'm not just saying that because he's also white. I'm saying that because he also played quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm a big Olamide Zaccheaus fan though, so I like him as a backup.
You just like to say his name. Say that again. That was fancy. That was good.
Olamide Zaccheaus.
Yes.
Why don't you have Zaccheaus as the starter then, right now? I
don't know. I mean, he could be the starter. It's kind of a toss-up. McCaffrey just has higher upside, and they also have, not talking about the offense, but Mike Sainristil out of Michigan. He's gonna be really good too. He's a nickel corner. I'm excited to see how he
slotted in as the starter.
Yeah. I mean, it was Quan Martin last year who played it, but he could move to more playing safety. He's pretty versatile. But yeah, I'm excited to see him out there. They still have question kind of with their other outside corner spot opposite of Benjamin St-Juste. Like Michael Davis, they signed to be kind of a veteran 1-year guy who could fill in, but he'll compete with their last year's first round pick, Emmanuel Forbes, who was kind of disappointing last year. But they have all new staff and everything, so hopefully they can kind of revitalize him.
I also ran into Jalen Hairless at the nutrition store, so I'm really rooting for him as well. So I'm just a big fan of the whole depth chart here.
Oh, there you go. I really like Jazan Newton. let's kind of move to our next segment, predicting movement in the rosters. Do we see Newton getting more playing time as the season goes along? Maybe even moving up to starter at some point.
Probably not starter his first year. This was kind of this pick was sort of a value pick because defensive tackle is probably their strongest position on their team. Like Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen is arguably the best defensive tackle duo. So it's kind of more of it was a good value pick where they took him in the second round when he was seen as more like a mid first. And it's more of a future pick. So it's like, if they don't end up re-signing Jonathan Allen or Payne, I don't know when their contracts are up, but it's kind of just more for the future. And Newton is going to be a really good player. His main thing was just I guess he dropped a little bit because of injury stuff. Like some teams didn't evaluate him to be fully healthy, but that being said, he has all the talent in the world. So that's like a star-studded room there.
All right. Now we're just going to take a quick moment for a word from our sponsor. Do you like blank walls? Are you like, I got too much stuff on my walls? How about some blank walls? Well, as you can see behind Cory and Tucker, they are rocking the blank walls from blankwalls.com. Nothing on the walls. Don't need anything. Just look like a serial killer. All right, that goes from blankwalls.com, our newest sponsor. Thank you, Tucker and Cory, for advertising their products with nothing behind you.
Keep it simple, stupid.
There we go. Should we move? Are there other depth chart movements you'd like to predict moving for this segment? Tucker.
Yeah, so probably not Washington, but if we move to like the Bengals, I kind of want to talk about them because they're kind of interesting with some of theirs. Like the last few years,
yeah.
they've been doing a thing these last few years where they draft their first round pick is used on someone who doesn't really play their first year. It's to replace a position that's going to be changing the following season. So they drafted Dax Hill there. He's in the second free safety spot. Dax Hill they took in the first round 2 years ago, but he didn't really play very much. He's he plays corner and safety. Last year he ended up playing the most snaps of any DB they had. But they took him a year in advance and he barely played his first year. And then last year they took Miles Murphy, edge rusher, in the first round, who again he's slotted right now as the third or fourth defensive end, but it was like these are positions they're kind of they don't need in the immediate present, but it's kind of better philosophy to build long term. And this year they kind of did the same thing again with getting Marius Mims in the first round, who I don't think he'll start, but because they signed Trent Brown from the Patriots to be their right tackle, but it's just a 1 year deal, and Trent Brown is getting up there in age, and Marius Mims can easily slot in to be the starter next year. And then same with their receiving as well. T. Higgins got franchise tagged, so they're from what it's going on with that right now is that it should be Higgins moving on after this year.
So they got Jermaine Burton.
Yeah, he'll basically directly replace him next year. They also lost Tyler Boyd in the slot, but they have kind of some solid guys behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins with Trenton Irwin and Charlie Jones. Both can kind of rotate in the slot. Irwin can kind of play all over the place.
Irwin had some moments last year.
Yeah, he's an underrated guy. I like him a lot because he's kind of been their fill-in guy in previous, like when Jamar's been hurt, he's filled in, or T. Higgins. But I think it'll be him and Charlie Jones kind of playing in the slot mainly, but Chase can move there as well. But Burton will be good. It was good that they addressed it in some way going forward because of losing two of their starting receivers.
Yeah. We have a question from Hayden Russell in the chat. Great content, fellow lads. How do you see the Ravens QB room panning out behind Lamar? Lots of interesting names in the room. Let's just go ahead and pull up the Ravens depth chart real fast. And Tucker, what are you thinking of behind Lamar? We've got Josh Johnson, Devin Leary, Malik Cunningham, Emory Jones.
Yeah, they have a lot of. So Cunningham they got last year from the Patriots practice squad, who was kind of playing. He was planned to be kind of like a play at receiver and at quarterback for them, but he didn't end up getting that much play time for the Patriots. So they signed him on with the promise that he would be able to play quarterback for the Ravens. But they did end up drafting Devin Leary in the 6th out of Kentucky, which is why Hayden's asking the question. I think that it's I don't really know how ready Devin Leary is, but I think that he'll make the roster. Like Josh Johnson has been on probably every team in the league. If you look at his like team history, it's the longest list that we have on our. I have to like rewrite it because
you would know. You would know. Pull that up. I want to see how long this is.
It caps out like the amount of characters there is, and I have to like rewrite the last 4 teams or something because of so many teams he's been on. Look at this.
Look at that player history.
List. It's insane.
Well, he must be a good guy. I mean, they just keep retreading the tires there, you know? Like get him in the room.
You can look the last year. So Baltimore, they signed him as a free agent last year. Then they cut him in August. Then they signed him in August. And then they cut him in September. And then they signed him in September. And then they signed him again in March. It's just he's just like a go-to.
This is his second stint with Baltimore also.
Yeah. A lot of teams he's been on like 3 or 4 times, and he just keeps going back.
Yeah, he's been on San Francisco a couple times. Mm-hmm. Jeez.
I think Washington a few times too.
Oh, Buffalo. This is Baltimore. This is his 3rd stint.
Yeah.
It makes it very easy to break up, get back together, break up. Like I totally understand. Just call me when you're.
Yeah,
available.
Totally.
So he's definitely the experienced option. He's 38 now. I'm kind of surprised he's still in the league.
He's that old?
Yeah,
I didn't realize he was that old.
But yeah, behind him though, like Devin Leary and Cunningham are super exciting young guys though. I like what they're doing. It's important. I'm not saying this because I'm a Falcons fan, but it's important to show up the quarterback room behind your star. Even if you have Lamar Jackson, still, if he gets hurt like he has, it's important to have guys behind him who can play.
I did not know you were a Falcons fan.
Yeah,
because you don't have anything behind you and you only wear an Iowa hat. So that's fantastic to realize that.
Okay. Yeah,
that's why I asked you about Kirk Cousins.
No. Okay. I don't remember you asking me that. Was it today?
No. It was like when he got signed by them. I was like, how did you like Kirk Cousins? Because he's coming to my team.
Captain Kirko, you know.
Yeah. All right. Just a quick reminder: check out Ourlads depth charts for the latest updated depth charts all the time. That's what we're talking about here today, and we'll be talking about going forward on our depth chart show, which right now will be every Thursday. We're excited to bring it to you. It'll be the first depth chart show of its time, right, Cory?
Yeah. First of its kind. It's kind of early in the year, so kind of getting the paces down now. Appreciate Hayden jumping in there. Hopefully some other fans.
Dave Size in there too.
Oh, what's Dave got going on?
He just said he's just got a little special teams are the simplest way to get 1 to 2 more wins. Bill Parcells. I think he was jumping in on the punter talk.
God bless you, Dave. God bless you.
That is an important part of rookies. Like you really have to take into account, even if some guys don't play that much on defense or offense, the special teams is huge for making the team as a rookie. That could be the difference for those like later round picks versus making the practice squad.
I got to tell you, the new kickoff rule, as someone that kicked off, I think it's going to be tremendous personally. At first, I thought it wasn't going to be that great, but I think it's going to give a lot of guys a chance to stay on teams, make a name for themselves on team, get more plays for a team. And I think we're going to see some new value put on players in recent years that haven't had it. It should be an exciting add to the game. I'm curious to see what happens to fantasy this year. With
the kickoff rules in fantasy.
Okay.
The
old Devin Hester get him going out there, get someone
Yeah.
return some kicks. I mean, look, the engagement's going to be right there, and once you're through, there's not a lot of people behind there, so it's going to it's going to happen quick.
I haven't really thought about that, but they will be using it's likely they use more players that actually do get playtime and on offense. Like before, they didn't really use many guys because it was such an injury kind of prone play. But you could see more often. I know Tyreek Hill has done it before, but they could use him more often there because it's not as dangerous. And that actually would have value if they're scoring touchdowns. Even just a couple on a season for fantasy.
They had offensive linemen oftentimes in the wedge back in the day, and I'm curious if you'll see more offensive linemen helping at the point of impact. I think it's just going to be really interesting to see the creative mindsets that come out and try to scheme that type of leverage and create those explosive plays. It should be. I think it's a good move. I'm glad they didn't totally take it away with the amount of kickers kicking it out of the back of the end zone. It was more about the light show and the music, hell's bells, than it was actually a football play. So I think
it was like it got kicked out 91 or 92% of the time. I think last year it's it was a dead play, and I think it's better to try to rework it than to just get rid of it entirely.
Yeah. Definitely. Let's talk. Let's move to our next segment, talking about veterans that are on the move. We've got Gabe Davis in Jacksonville now. I think Jacksonville is an interesting roster to look at because they also have Brian Thomas Jr. as a rookie in the starting spot next to Gabe Davis. And then we got Christian Kirk coming back for his third season with the Jaguars. He's been very productive in fantasy. I've had him in one of my dynasty teams. I don't know. What do you think? Does Kirk's value really take a hit this year with Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. on the squad?
Yeah, it might a little bit, but he's kind of just continued to be. We thought it would last year with Ridley, but and Evan Ingram too, but he's kind of just continued to be Trevor Lawrence's main guy. But Brian Thomas does bring a kind of a new top level to the room. They do have a lot of options there, but I still like Kirk for fantasy purposes.
How do you see Davis and Thomas working together? Who's taking the top off the defense?
I think Brian Thomas is the top guy.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis, he's making. I think it was 3-year, $30 million contract, which is more of a wide receiver 2 contract you'd see. So Calvin Ridley got a $100 million contract. So Brian Thomas clearly comes in as the one competing with Christian Kirk. And then Evan Ingram obviously brings a lot as a receiver too. It's really just to give Trevor Lawrence the best chance he has here to really show his stuff. And I think that it was a great pick for them, especially since they traded back and still got him.
Yeah, it is a great pick for them. Do you have any other veterans you want to talk about on the move? Or Corey, you have any questions about the Jaguars?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Tucker, what are the veterans on the move that you want to talk about?
If we stay on the Jaguars, actually, I liked them getting Eric Armstead, who was cut by the 49ers for cap reasons, but they've been having issues with their defensive tackle. They've been wanting to shore that up, and you see that they still did in the draft as well. They took 2 LSU D tackles in Jordan Jefferson and Mason Smith in the 2nd and 4th. And but Eric Armstead,
Smith is somebody that we really liked in the pre-draft process. Dave said in a video about him, he's dripping with tools.
Which one is that?
Smith.
Oh, gotcha.
Mason Smith. Yeah.
I really liked their draft was really good too. I thought they really addressed they hit a lot of different needs they had. But Eric Armstead, he's not in his prime anymore, but he's still a really good player. So I'm excited to see how their D tackle room shakes out because they have a lot of guys there that could make the roster.
Nice. All right. What about should we talk? We talked to the Dolphins on a previous show. Should we talk about the Titans with Calvin Ridley moving since he moved from the Jaguars?
Yeah, and they have Tyler Boyd now too.
Yeah, and they have Tyler Boyd now. That's a good point. So let's talk about the wide receivers in Tennessee. There we go. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd. That looks like a pretty strong nucleus there to starting. What are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I think it was very necessary to do after the last few years. Like the receiver room has been kind of like not great like depth, and they really want to see what Levis has, and so it's a little bit on the older end. Like all three of those starters are kind of, I think they're all older than 30. I think Ridley just turned 30 maybe, or maybe he's 29. But
Mm-hmm.
I still think that they'll be really good. Like Hopkins was still good last year. Boyd is kind of just bringing in depth. Like he could start. He might end up being kind of a rotational guy. But either way, they have Traylon Burke. Like I think it was necessary to have kind of Traylon Burks. They can kind of move him around and figure out where he's best, and he'll be able to take over once that one of those guys moves on. Nick Westbrook, Akine, and Kyle Phillips too. Like it's those top six will make the roster, I think. And they also drafted Jaquan Jackson in the sixth, who I think he has good return ability. So he could end up making the roster based off that, but he can bring slot value as well. Yeah, I mean, I like it, but I don't. It's like a question of how much left does like Hopkins and Ridley have in the tank.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's going to be exciting to see Will Levis with an offensive-minded head coach too. Don't sleep on that with Brian Callahan coming in now. And
Oh, good call, Corey.
Yeah,
I think it should be fun to see those guys go. Fresh life.
Their offense has been really since Arthur Smith left. Their offense has been really inconsistent. And so it should be interesting to see how Brian Callahan changes it.
What are we thinking about? Speaking of another veteran who moved there, Tony Pollard. What are we thinking about him as a starter? As far as in fantasy, disappointed last year as a number one option. He was drafted by a lot of teams in the first round in fantasy. Now he moves to the Titans. His average draft position has really dropped after this season.
Let's see where that's why like
he's like number 80 right now behind McLaurin and Eckler and okay.
I personally think he's good value at that point. Like it's more just we the fantasy people loved him last year because he was so good with Zeke. When Zeke missed time 2 years ago and Pollard was playing, he was like arguably the best running back in the league. But last year when he got the starting job, he ended up disappointing and wasn't nearly as good as we thought he would be with the full-time job. But at this point, I think that his value has dropped so much where it's like I feel like he's going to get more touches than anybody else there. Like I think Spears will get some play, but otherwise,
but Tajay Spears is not. We're not really too worried about him taking the starting role since they went out and got Pollard, right?
Right. Yeah. I like I think Pollard is being taken way later than he should be. Like he sounds like a good value pick for fantasy to me.
Yeah. And I would even like handcuffing Tajay Spears because we saw him in limited work last year, spelling Derrick Henry, looking pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So he could definitely get some touches even as a number 2 option, or if Tony Pollard goes down.
Yep, for sure.
All right, great. Let's move on to our final segment. And before I do, Corey, do you have anything you'd like to advertise?
Yeah, I would. Thank you for asking. Here at Ourlads, we do have the most up-to-date depth charts done by the Duke himself, and we're getting ready to launch a new depth chart product coming for fall 2024. If anyone is listening, Ryan, do you want to drop our email address?
Yeah, it is team@ourlads.com. Here, I'll write it in a banner even.
Yeah. So if you'd like to, we're looking for some folks, whether you're just a fan of a team, if you're an avid gambler, or if you're getting ready for fantasy football, knowing who plays in the game predicates the outcome of the game. And we're looking for some folks to kind of test it out, give us some feedback. A little bit of the gist of it will be a push through real-time updates of what's going on the depth charts as Tucker pushes them through. Nobody does it faster, nobody does it more accurate, and no one's done it for a longer period of time. So we're hoping to become a little more useful tool for you. And then obviously it will be a gateway to the great information found on ourlads.com. But we'll also.
So wait, we are offering this for free right now.
Yeah.
If they just email us, we will add them to the sheet that you can turn on automatic updates for depth chart movement.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is next level from, like, say, the Sleeper app, which only gives you, breaking news, but not depth chart movement.
Yeah, and even if other folks push it out there, it's still not Ourlads vetted and verified information, as the Oracle would have us all say, And so what we're looking for is about 100 to 200 folks that want to go ahead and see what the product has to offer. So drop us a note at Team Ourlads and
team@ourlads.com. Team@ourlads.com. Shoot us an email and we'll add you to the spreadsheet. You get to see Tucker's awesome spreadsheet skills, and you'll get automatic updates for depth charts. So you'll be on top of it. It's great for gambling, great for fantasy. You got to know the depth charts before you place a bet or before you decide on your starters. So good to know. All right. Let's move to our final segment. We've got roster holes, teams who still have gaping holes they need to fill. Tucker, where are we going first?
We're going to go to Pittsburgh first. They got a few. Well, there's one big one that I want to talk about at least.
Okay. Go ahead. Let me pull up Pittsburgh. All right. What's position we talking about?
Nickel. So down at the bottom of defense.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of moving around last year with their DBs. They ended up at the end playing Patrick Peterson at safety. They also had him at nickel, but he's a free agent. They could end up. I think they'll end up bringing him back. But right now it's Darius Rush there, who barely played. Like, they're very thin at cornerback and nickel. They traded for Dante Jackson, but he's getting up there in age. Joey Porter Jr. I think will be good, but and I'm also looking at like Corey Trice Jr., the 7th round pick, I think will be good too. But the nickel spot is like a clear place where they need to add someone to compete there. And they have a few options. I think that Peterson is the most likely to bring back just because he knows the system. But yeah, that was a team I'd say I was pretty surprised they didn't address in the draft, but they went really hard on the O-line, spending their first, second, and fourth on offensive line.
Yeah, as you can see, orange right at the top of their O-line and right behind the left guard as well. So yeah, lots of new players for them on the offensive line. All right. Where are we going next? Any other player movement you want to try to predict, or any questions here, Corey, for Tucker on the Steelers?
I just think my guy Plumlee there, John Plumlee, he was probably one of my favorite quarterbacks in the draft. I just really love this guy's attitude. I hope he gets a chance there in preseason. Just want to put a shameless plug out there.
Yeah, he could. I mean, he could beat Kyle Allen as the third.
Yeah,
well, he's probably not going to beat the other two out, but I'd like to see.
Yeah, especially since they just went and got both of those guys, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, to try it. And maybe Plumlee. Where's Plumlee out of?
Central Florida. Yeah.
UCF. Yeah.
UCF. All right, love the confidence there, guys. You guys know what you're talking about.
I meant to say UCF. He said Hey, look,
we were using different names for it. Same school.
Yeah, same school, different names. All right, what other teams that we're gonna predict some player movement on?
I guess a lot of them. The first thing that comes to mind are like teams where they didn't address cornerback. So like I was talking about Steelers there, but the Texans, I think that they got someone who can fill in. Like they got Jeff Okudah who can play as a starter, but he's not really a long-term option. He's kind of just he's more of a guy you'd like to have as the third cornerback, like the top backup.
Yeah.
That would be a spot. I mean, they've kind of added quite a bit there, but I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in another guy to compete. like Steven Nelson or something coming back. But their top and Derek Stingley is really good, and then they added Kamari Lassiter, who can play safety or nickel, and I think that was a huge thing because they had Desmond King starting there, who has been all right, but they want to upgrade there. And Lassiter he kind of hits two spots there with being able to play safety and nickel, and they also added Kalen Bullock too, because their safety Jimmy Ward is getting up there. I think it's last year of his contract, and they really needed to fortify the safety room as well. But otherwise, the Texans as a whole, though, I'm really excited to see how they do with getting Danielle Hunter, getting Stephon Diggs, and those are huge acquisitions. So they're a really exciting team.
Yeah, I got it's definitely with Joe Mixon there and Damian Pierce, who played well in the backfield for them last year. It seems like a really strong offensive room in general. We saw Dalton Schultz played real well there, and they went ahead and got Cade Stover to back him up. Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins. This is going to be a really fun team to watch. It's hopefully CJ Stroud takes the jump everybody's expecting.
CJ Stroud he's a dog. He is so good. And with adding Mixon in there, adding Stephon Diggs, sky's the limit for that guy.
All right. Let's pick a final team to discuss. Any other player movement that we want to bring up that you think that you'd like to predict?
I think the Vikings.
Corey's team. Finally, we're getting there. We started with my team, the Arizona Cardinals, and we're bookending with Corey's team.
Thank you.
The Vikings. There we go. Let's pull up the team. All right, what are we talking?
They have a couple spots. So left guard Blake Brandel is going to be starting because they lost. I'm blanking on his name. Who was their starter last year? Hold on. Let me
Corey?
talk together first.
Do you know the starter?
Corey won't know.
I won't know. I'm not the depth chart expert. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody can have access to the depth chart when they need it, where they need it, no matter how they need it.
Dalton Reisner signed.
Dalton Reisner. Okay.
Yeah. Blake Brandel was kind of a top backup for them, but he's sliding in as a starter. And Ed Ingram hasn't been amazing yet. Hopefully he steps up more here in this third year. And Garrett Bradbury is really good at center, but the interior is kind of shaky there, and with the backups as well. So left guard would be a spot that I'd say to watch for any change if they add someone there. And then the other position I wanted to talk about was just their defensive line. I think they need to add more competition there. It's just the top end starters like Tillery and Jonathan Bullard. I think Bullard and Phillips were starters for them last year, but those are places where you kind of want to get younger. I mean, they weren't really able to. They have Jacqueline Roy from last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they added more guys to compete there on the D line as well.
How are you feeling about the Vikings' chances this year, Corey?
Like I do every year, just cautiously waiting. I've had
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I've had my heart broke so many times. I do believe in Kevin O'Connell. I think I'm excited to see what JJ McCarthy can do. And I'm not angry at Sam Darnold if he got in there either. I think he's been I think he had a rough go with the Jets, and I think he learned a lot out there in San Francisco. So I thought he was great. I think they're going to be a great quarterback room. I think Jim Harbaugh says the truth, and I think what he had to say about JJ McCarthy is true, and I think that's a lot of reasons why Kevin O'Connell went after him. And it just really depends on kind of the wide receivers and JJ, how they get along. I think happy wife, happy life there. So hopefully those guys play well together in the sandbox and can get it going. I think losing Darnell Hunter was huge for us. Like Tucker was saying, that D line, and it's hard to, the NFC North, I don't know how all of a sudden you turn around and all of a sudden it's a perennial division. I think with the Packers been really quiet this offseason, and they're just young and loaded. And of course, you got the Lions coming back, and the brand new shiny sports car in the room is the Bears. So it's like, geez, the Vikings better strap it up each week. We'll see.
For sure. I'm excited to see if Darnold or McCarthy ends up winning the job starting week 1. It could be either one, really.
Yeah, well, you saw what Kevin did last year, shifting quarterbacks around all the time. It almost started to beg the difference. Starting a new quarterback every week, could you actually beat the curve? Like teams don't know what to try.
Josh Dobbs was a Hall of Famer against the Falcons, so.
Yeah, he was. He's a rocket man.
Let's talk briefly about the defense. Dallas Turner was one of people's favorite edge rushers coming into the draft. You have him behind Van Ginkel. How much do we expect to see Dallas Turner this year? A first round pick.
I kind of went back and forth on it. I'm usually kind of heir to being more conservative, or I try to be. It's easy to get excited about guys, but they signed Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel as edge rushers to kind of hopefully replace Danielle Hunter. But yeah, Dallas Turner was huge for them to get at. I don't know what their second pick was at, like 18 or something. I think they traded up to
24.
Get him. It was 24.
Does it say in here? Yeah. 17. Yeah.
I think they traded up from their spot they had in their second pick. But
yeah,
that was a great pick just going forward. Like, he'll be the leader in that room. We just need to see him as a rookie first, but it wouldn't be surprising if as the year went on, he became a starter. Like, I would say that's probably likely. But right now I'm just saying week 1, probably rotate with Andrew Van Ginkel. But I think their edge rushers group is looking a lot better after getting Dallas Turner in there too.
Yeah. That's great. All right. Anything else we want to cover before we wrap it up, guys?
I think that's all I got on my
Cory, you got anything?
No, sir. I'm good.
All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Lots of people on the live stream, so thank you so much for being here. Please make sure to like this video, leave some comments for us, ask some questions. If you didn't get a chance to ask questions in the live stream, go ahead and ask them on the video. We'll answer them when we get a chance. Also, make sure to subscribe. We've got a lot of live shows coming up in the off season. Just because the NFL is in the off season doesn't mean we are. We are going to be grinding, doing a lot of shows, getting you all ready for the upcoming season in fantasy, in gambling, depth charts, scouting. We've got it all here at Ourlads. Make sure to check out ourlads.com and follow us across all social media at Ourlads Football. And make sure to follow Cory on Twitter as well. What's your screen name, Cory?
I'm behind it, so I got the black hat. I'm behind it. Just hit me up at team@ourlads.com.
Team@ourlads.com. And Tucker still does not have social media either. We got to get Tucker on social media. We need the Duke of Depth Charts to have a social media presence. What do you think?
I can't agree more with that. I can't.
You into it?
We'll work that. Yeah, we'll shop it.
We need to do a photo shoot with you where you have like a Duke's outfit. I don't know what Dukes wear, but it's something probably pretty royal.
They wear Adidas here.
Okay. All right. I was thinking more of like some pantaloons, like a puffy shirt and pantaloons. I think you'd look excellent in that. But we'll put that on one of these days we'll get the Duke of Depth Charts on social media.
Thank you all for Duke.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, definitely. And we'll be having a lot more merch and stuff at ourlads.com too. That is coming soon. We have a lot of changes, so please make sure to subscribe and keep up with Ourlads. Thank you so much all for watching. Like and subscribe, and we will see you again next week. Come.